I would like to emphasize the difference between a belief in the Ramayana as a sacred text and a belief that Ram was the avatar of Vishnu, which is a perfectly legitimate belief. It's a matter of faith. And as historians, we don't object to people having those beliefs, naturally, because these are religious beliefs. But what worries us is when that faith and those beliefs are sought to be imposed on history. That is when we say, no, wait a minute, it wasn't like that. When is it that Ram becomes an avatar of Vishnu? Because the interesting thing, as has been pointed out by many scholars, is that the earlier books, 2 to 6, seldom refer to him as a deity. It's the later books added on afterwards, 1 and 7, that emphasize the aspect of his being a deity. So the question that the historian asks is, was there a point at which this perfectly attractive, very, very pleasurable, heroic character is converted into an avatar? And why? Was it perhaps because Vaishnavism at that time is undergoing some kind of stress, competition from other religious sects, Shaivism, Buddhism, Jainism? Buddhism and Jainism, and Buddhism in particular, are very important from about the 2nd century BC to the 4th century AD, the post-Maurya up to Gupta period. So if there is competition from other sects, one of the ways of getting around it is to take a popular hero and say he's actually ours, he's an incarnation of our deity, and deify the hero into being something much bigger than what he was originally intended to be. So that becomes an important issue. There are different sort of branches of the evolution of this story. There is a text which is called the Adhyatmic Ramayana, the character of Sita. It's fascinating. She is the shadow Sita right from the beginning, because they know what is going to happen. She's going to have to go through an Agni Pariksha. So rather than make the real Sita go through an Agni Pariksha, a shadow, a Chaya Sita is created. And it is the Chaya Sita who is kidnapped by Ravan, who is then rescued, who goes through the Agni Pariksha, and when she does so, the real Sita comes out. Now, this is a very major departure. And, you know, one could write a whole volume on why was this necessary? Why did they invent this? But what it does, I think, is what all these different versions do, is that they release the story to be adapted as and where people think it needs to be adapted, where it makes sense to them. It has a purpose in their lives. And then you start getting all these different versions. And one of the most interesting versions is a late version, which is seldom mentioned, the Mappila version, which is written in Malayalam, where the characters carry names like Fatima. Suparnika is Fatima. Ram is described as a sultan. The story continues. The story is told very reverentially. But very interestingly, where there is a dialogue between Ram and Fatima on behavior, the reference is the Sharia. It's not the Dharma Shastras, it's the Sharia. So, and this version is based on some Southeast Asian versions. There's a very famous one from Malaysia called the Hikayat Seri Ram, in which Allah and Nabi and Muhammad are all participants in the story. And what I'm trying to stress is really that one has to look at it as a cultural idiom. That is extremely important.